Previous for department 1 also it has different direct materials or total direct materials that used to produce different a lot of upper parts of the shoes. There is direct material to produce different lower part of the shoes. Also in department 3 might also use different materials or direct materials. Also there is a labor cost and overhead costs. Finally this product or the final product, which is the shoe, will be produced at the final stage. It's not only producing about producing one shoe, but different shoes will be produced. So we will assign this direct material and labor or direct costs in the form of cost tracing. This total costs will be assigned this material or this material for this department, also this material for this department. The total direct materials will be assigned, and we'll calculate how much this one shoes or one cost object from all of those products takes, or how much is the cost of this product or the cost of this one shoe. That is called the cost tracing, as we have seen in the previous, because it's all about direct costs. However, if we add this total manufacturing overhead for the departments, and after this final product has been produced, if we allocate, not trace, but if we allocate that costs to one product or from all of those shoes, if we allocate for one of the shoes, it's called cost allocating, that we have seen in the previous. Finally, after adding the costs that we have assigned in the form of direct material that we have traced, or in the form of overhead costs, we will add all of them and we will find the final product of the cost. That is the core of the cost accounting, to calculate the product's cost. After finishing these cost related terminologies, we will see how to calculate material cost and material, labor and overhead costs for each product. How we assign, it's a basic concept in cost accounting to allocate this material, labor, direct and indirect costs for each cost objects in order to calculate the total cost of the final product, which is the main agenda or the main aim of the cost accounting concept. Yeah, there are also different costs, which are manufacturing costs that we have seen: direct material, direct labor, and factory or manufacturing overhead costs. There are also different non-manufacturing costs. Manufacturing cost is a cost incurred in order to produce this shoe, which is a direct material, labor, and overhead costs. After that, after this shoe is produced, we might incur different marketing costs in order to sell this product, different advertisement costs. If we have financed our projects in the previous, if we borrow money in order to start up this business, probably we might end up paying an expense, interest expense. That's also a financing cost. There might be different costs after this shoe is produced, which might be non-manufacturing costs. There are also something called prime cost and conversion cost. Prime costs are direct manufacturing costs, which are directly attributed to the final cost object. For example, as we have seen, direct material is something that is attributed or traced directly to the final cost object. Also, direct labor is also a prime cost, which means it can be directly traced to the final cost object. Also, a conversion cost is a cost that we are used in order to convert these materials to this final product. It's not it should not only be a direct cost this time. It might also be a manufacturing cost or an indirect cost, I mean. So in order to change this wood to this final product, we use direct labor, right? So direct labor costs are a conversion costs, one of the conversion costs. Also, we use different manufacturing overhead costs. That means, for example, as we have said in the previous, this glue is something that we attach these woods in order to produce the final product or the final chair. So in order to change these direct materials or raw materials to final product, we use different indirect costs. So all of those indirect costs or manufacturing overhead costs are included in the conversion cost, or a cost that is used to convert these direct materials to the final product. So a conversion cost includes direct labor, which is this one, and manufacturing overhead costs or indirect costs. However, it does not include a direct material because it talks about a cost that is used to convert this direct material to final product. So from this we can use this formula. Prime cost is direct material cost and the direct labor cost, which is the total direct costs. A conversion cost is direct labor cost. It does not include direct material. However, direct labor cost plus manufacturing overhead cost. So total manufacturing cost can be direct and prime cost which contain direct material and direct labor, and the conversion cost which contain direct labor and manufacturing overhead cost. At this time, a manufacturing cost is direct material plus direct labor plus manufacturing overhead. However, when we add prime costs and conversion cost, direct labor will be duplicated. So in order to remove one direct labor, and when one direct labor is removed from this, we can get direct material, direct labor plus manufacturing overhead, because this direct labor is eliminated in the process of subtracting. So minus direct labor. So prime cost plus conversion cost minus direct labor cost is called total manufacturing cost, which gives us direct material plus direct labor, which is prime cost, plus which is conversion cost, direct labor and manufacturing overhead. However, manufacturing overhead cost. However, we will eliminate this direct labor cost from it by subtracting minus direct labor. So manufacturing cost will remain as direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead or manufacturing overhead as a final formula. You can also derive different formulas from this, but it's better for you to understand, and it's enough for you to understand what prime and conversion costs as a cost terminology. So we have seen about what a manufacturing cost, but how does the manufacturing cost differ from a product cost? Listen to this once.
Between product cost and manufacturing cost is subtle but important. Manufacturing cost. This specifically refers to all costs directly involved in the production of goods. It includes direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, like utilities and rent for the production facility. Product cost. This encompasses all costs associated with producing a product, including manufacturing costs, but also includes any additional costs incurred to bring the product to a saleable state. This can include costs related to packaging and shipping. In summary, while all manufacturing costs are included in product costs may also include other expenses that occur after the manufacturing process, but before the product is sold.
So for example, you can think of in this way. Let me say I have produced this pen for $100. It is called a manufacturing cost, a cost that I have incurred in order, or a cost that I have spent in order to produce this one pen. So probably, let me say, if I paid $50 to transport this pen to sell for the person who buy from me, this means I have spent $150 in order to sell this cost, or in order to sell this pen, to make it to sellable state. This means 150 is the product cost, because this transportation cost is also allocated to the product cost in the IFRS rule. However, manufacturing cost is the cost which I have used to manufacture this pen will remain $100, which I have used in order to produce this pen. However, product cost is a cost that I have used in order to manufacture, and after that also to make it bring to the to make the product to the saleable state, to make the product reach to saleable state. So here let me differentiate these things. A product cost is a cost which includes a manufacturing cost and different other costs that can be traced, that can be allocated to the product itself. It might not be a manufacturing cost, however, as long as IFRS rule says that, for example, transportation costs to make that product to saleable state, it is included on the product cost. So a combination of this manufacturing cost and that cost is called a product cost, or the cost of the product. For example, there might be also any other costs that cannot be included in the product costs, however immediately expensed after incurred, rather than adding to the product cost. This cost might be selling and administrating expense. These are called they are called a period cost. So a product cost is a cost which is attributed to the product, including manufacturing and other costs, which can be, or which is permitted to by IFRS to be added in the product cost. And period costs are a costs which can be incurred after manufacturing or after including all of the costs, or a costs which are not included in the product are called a period costs. For example, for selling and administrative different expenses, including selling and administrative expense, are called a period costs. Also, the cost to manufacture this pen is called a manufacturing cost, and any costs which might be added to the product, which to be included as a product cost, like for example in the transport, T is this here, it is a transportation cost. For example, this transportation cost is non-manufacturing cost, however it might be included in the product to be included in the product cost. However, it is not manufacturing cost. We cannot say that it is a manufacturing cost as long as it is included in the product cost. A non-manufacturing costs might also be added to the product cost as long as IFRS permits. There are also different costs which IFRS does not permit to include in the product cost, and which remains as a prime cost. These are also a non-manufacturing cost. These are this selling and administrative expenses and transportation costs are in a manufacturing cost. And there is also a cost which is direct material, direct labor in the manufacturing overhead costs, which is directly named as a manufacturing cost. This manufacturing cost and the transportation cost in this example can also be included in the product cost, which is the cost of this pen. But there might be different costs which are related, which are incurred after the product is produced, but which are not permitted in order to be added in the product cost. They are called a period costs. In this example, we have used the selling and administrative expenses, which are also in manufacturing costs.